Between 2020 and 2025, global wealth is projected to rise by almost 40%. At first glance, it doesn't seem like a shocking statistics, but if you think about it, that means the total number of millionaires will also increase by about that number. If today we have around 6 million millionaires, soon we will have 8.4 million millionaires. The question is, are you going to be one of them? In fact, recently Bill Gates said that climate tech would produce 8 to 10 Teslas, a Google, an Amazon, and a Microsoft. That is a bold claim because 10 Teslas mean $10 trillion, plus Microsoft, Amazon, and Google worth another $7 trillion. $17 trillion of wealth is about to be created in the next decade or so. If you manage to get just 0.1% of that wealth, that is going to be $170 billion. That is going to make you the fourth wealthiest person in the world, right after Bernard Arnault. So even a tiny share of that pie is more than you can possibly spend in your entire life. But the hardest part is to start. Most people aren't conscious about their spendings. They live their lives not paying much attention to how they spend their money. Yes, everyone is trying to make more money, but very few people know how to make more money. Most people say that, what is the point of managing my money when I just make enough to pay the bills? Once I start making more money, I will start managing my money. The truth is that if you can't manage a small amount of money, you won't be able to manage a lot of money. In my experience, it starts with learning how to save money. At first glance, it's not easy to deny yourself all the pleasures you can afford. You have the money, or you can swipe that credit card. But once you start understanding how your brain works, you can trick your brain and you will no longer feel the urge to spend money to satisfy your urges, and you will be able to save most of your income. And that's what we'll find out in this video. If you're ready, give this video a thumbs up and let's dive in. But first, we have to understand how our brain works. Your brain isn't a fixed organ, it's much more adaptable than you think, like the rest of your muscles in your body. But unlike other organs of your body, your brain is the most important one. Everything you do, feel, and think is influenced by your brain cells or the neurons. But what we want to focus on are the neurotransmitters that control the reward system. While these terms sound a bit complicated, they're pretty simple and straightforward. Dopamine is that thing in your brain that constantly searches for a reward, and as a result of that, motivates you to do things. For example, if you win this race, you will get $1 million. Well, this example sounds a bit too simple. That's how our brain works. Why do you think people gamble? Because their brain anticipates a reward once they win. The satisfaction you get after you buy something or when someone likes your picture on Instagram is that dopamine boost. That's why you can't just sit around. You have to check out who liked your recent picture, and God forbid if it's your crush, your dopamine will spike way higher. The dopamine receptor is so powerful that when researchers turned off dopamine receptors in rats, they got so lazy that they did not have the will and motivation to eat, even though they had food in the cage. Normally, your dopamine level is stable and it spikes every time you get a reward. You're hungry and you see a super delicious meal, your brain will push you to have it to get the dopamine spike, but then it slowly comes down to where it was. But not all rewards spike your dopamine level equally. Alcohol, for example, can spike it to 200, or cocaine can spike it to 400. If it's done once, it's not a big deal. However, your dopamine receptor is tangible. The more often it spikes, the higher becomes your new normal. So, if you constantly consume alcohol, your new normal will get to around 200. So everything else that does not spike your dopamine level higher than 200 won't be attractive to you. That's how people usually become alcoholics. They drink so much they completely destroy their reward system that nothing will motivate them other than alcohol. The same applies to social media. Your brain anticipates to see something that will spike your dopamine level. That's why you easily get distracted to check out your phone. But the question that you probably have in mind is, how is that related to saving money? You see, whenever you buy something, the same neurotransmitters get involved. Your choice to spend money is dictated by more than meets the eye, the chemicals in your brain. If you have damaged your neurotransmitters such as dopamine, you will feel the urge to constantly spend money to keep it at that level. In fact, your dopamine receptor will no longer be satisfied with small purchases and will push you to spend bigger and bigger amounts. But shopping isn't the worst habit that you can develop out of damaged dopamine receptor. Alcoholism, gambling are much worse. When you see people who waste their entire paychecks on gambling, you start wondering, why can't they figure out that they have to pay rent and other bills? Why can't they manage their money? The answer is simple. Their dopamine levels are too high and nothing will satisfy them except that particular activity. In fact, once that high level becomes the new norm, their brain will demand a stronger boost to be satisfied. So if you want to make saving money easy, all you have to do is fix your dopamine receptor and bring it down to a healthy level where buying a simple Starbucks coffee will give you the same reward satisfaction as spending a fortune on lottery tickets. Fixing your dopamine is easy in theory, but very difficult in practice. All you have to do is stop doing all the things that spike your dopamine so high for a few weeks or maybe a month until your dopamine level will adjust to a healthy level. But you can't just do nothing. That's why the best strategy is to turn your bad habits into good habits, because getting rid of bad habits is much more difficult than replacing them with alternative habits. Start with exercise because the data on this is clear. Studies prove that exercise raises your dopamine to a healthy level. That's why often you feel energized after a morning run. I know that it's not easy to push yourself to exercise or do things that are not as rewarding as checking your Instagram. Your brain always tries to avoid anything that requires a lot of energy by always choosing short-term rewards over long-term rewards. When you want to go to the gym, for example, you always decide to do it tomorrow because today you're tired, you don't feel like exercising, your brain will give you 1,000 reasons why it's better to do it tomorrow. That's what your brain wants. It will give you short-term solutions, but you're messed up in the long run. But you can trick your brain by breaking up the task into small pieces. Remember that your brain is trying to save energy, so when the task looks so big that it literally needs a lot of work and you don't even know where to start, your brain will automatically start coming up with every reason to avoid it. So you have to trick your brain and let him know that you're not going to do anything tough. You're simply going to do a simple task that requires 5 to 10 minutes maybe. You're not going to spend a lot of energy or time there. That's why when you break up the task and focus only on a small piece of it, your brain isn't going to bother about it. The same thing happens when you try to wake up early in the morning. Your brain is constantly telling you the day is going to be long and tiring. You have to take a shower, drive to your job, work for hours, attend meetings, and another 5 minutes of sleep isn't going to make a difference. So you will hit that snooze button. Now imagine if you focus on a small piece of it. Just tell yourself, forget about everything, I'm going to take a shower, and if I feel sleepy after that, I will get back to sleep. And you will find it much easier to get up because your brain isn't going to come up with another excuse. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to go to the bathroom. It is pretty simple to wake up because you know that you will get back to sleep after that. When I feel lazy to go to the gym, I just say to myself that I'm just going to change my clothes and get out of the house. If I still feel lazy, I will come back. I put on my shoes, take my bag, and get out of the house. It takes 2 minutes to do that. Once I'm out, it gets much easier to get to the gym. If you want to go for a jog, for example, don't tell yourself that you will jog for 20 minutes. Follow the 2-minute rule. Put on your shoes and get out of the house, and then decide whether you want to jog or not. The most difficult part is to start. But it's not enough to push yourself to save more money. You should learn how to make more money, and one of the best ways is to start investing. But before you start investing, you should know at least the basics of the stock market. I get it, it is not easy, especially when you're just starting. You have a million questions. But don't worry, I get it. I was once in your shoes, and to answer all of your questions, I have created a course that is simple, straightforward, and fully animated. I've literally answered almost all of the questions you have in your mind. I strongly recommend it if you're serious about investing. It will not just teach you how to invest in index funds, but will also teach you how to analyze stocks and read financial statements. And at the end of the course, you will have to complete an assignment that I will personally check. And the best part of it is that you can get 2 weeks of Skillshare Premium if you use the link in my description and get the course for free. So don't miss it. You can also start your investing journey by getting 2 free stocks from Webull by using the link in the description. You have everything you need to start. If you have enjoyed this video, you'll most definitely enjoy this custom playlist that I have created specifically for you that has our most popular videos that could potentially change your life. And now give this video a thumbs up that it deserves, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Thanks for watching, and until next time.